Welcome to the Reimagine You Lab podcast. It is MG, and we are here with another episode. And you know that this is Women's History Month, and we are in our series where we are celebrating amazing women and their contributions to everything, right? Everything. And so, as you know, and as we always do, we are going to start this episode making sure that you have hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. As well, we want to make sure that you tune in here every Friday. And we also want to make sure that you send this podcast to a friend, family member, colleague, because we know that in the lab, you're always going to get something that's going to be good. And today is no exception. So make sure that you sit back, get your cup of tea or your nice, cold, refreshing drink because you are going to enjoy what we've got in store for you today. And all right, with that, we ready to get in? I know that y'all are because I am. And today we have the amazing, the beautiful, the one, the only Dana Doucette, who is here with me in the lab. Hey, Dana, how are you today?
I am awesome today. I am awesome and then some. Awesome.
And this, well, welcome to the lab. I am so glad that you have the time and you're able to be with me today. I am excited about just what we are going to do, what we're going to listen to, what we're going to learn, what we're going to lean in for. So, hey, this is what we do here. This is what we do. So, welcome, welcome,
Thank
welcome,
you.
welcome. And so, Dana, I know that those had tuned in to when we amped up and Maurice kind of did our takeover, and so they got a short intro of who you are and where you're from. But we go beyond the bios, and so I am going to have you reintroduce yourself and tell the folks about Dana Doucette, if you don't mind, my
Of
dear.
course not. So, my name is, she said, Dana Doucette, and I am the Director of Community Programs for the City of Little Rock. And sometimes people ask, well, what does that mean? And it's really simple: community programs for the City of Little Rock. And so, what I'm responsible for mostly are the residents of our city and improving their quality of life by offering opportunities and resources and information so that they can get to the next level, whatever that looks like for them, so that they can begin to solve some of the issues that are holding them back, so that they can overcome some of the challenges that are causing those issues, and so that they can really get ahead and really enjoy a quality of life within our city. So I really enjoy that. I get a chance to work with the youth, mainly with youth development, and that really brings me a lot of joy. And then I'm able to see them grow up and develop families of their own because we really do work with the children, youth, and their families, again, to improve their quality of life. So, that in a nutshell is what I do. Who I am is that I'm originally from Denver, Colorado, legitimately. That's where I was born and raised. I came to Arkansas to go to college, so I am a proud HBCU grad of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Went to
Yeah.
Arkansas State University for a master's degree. And unfortunately, I just ended up getting stuck in Arkansas. I had no plan to stay here. That, with the exception of 10 years that I spent in Washington, D.C., I did get a chance to move to the nation's capital, and I was working for the National Education Association there, and ended up coming back to Arkansas because by then my mother had moved here. Long story, but she had moved here, and I didn't like being that far away from her as I knew that she was ending her, and her life was coming to an end and she was about to make her transition. So I did come back and was able to spend the last 4 years with her. Totally right decision. And that's how I ended up in Arkansas and back in Little Rock, Arkansas. And it's been good to me though.
Yeah, nice. Well, I have to tell you, my sister is a UAPB alum as well.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah. So I'm glad to know that. Dana, I'm learning so much about you today that I'm like, girl, we sisters now for real, for real. Like, yeah,
For real, yes.
we sisters for real, for real.
Yeah.
No, awesome. You know what? And because we are talking about, Women's History Month and the work that women are doing in so many different spaces, and the work that you're doing there as, in Arkansas, and the program, like the director of community programs, and all the people that you're helping, you're talking about the quality of life. That's a big job. Being able to help so many people, expand their quality of life. Talk a little bit, we're talking about, amazing women and the things that they're doing. They're doing big jobs. They're doing, they're making big marks on the community and the lives of the community that they're impacting. Talk about some of the things, some of that work that you're doing and what that actually looks like, because sometimes people don't realize, like, there are extraordinary people doing some phenomenal work and making some great impact in the communities that they serve in. So talk a little bit about, like, some of the programs and stuff that you are doing that's making some of that impact, because people think about Arkansas and they think, hey, this is a small state, like, what they doing in Arkansas. Tell them about what you're doing in Arkansas.
Well, first of all, Little Rock is a city. We have more than 200,000 people in our capital city. And
Yeah.
so we're considered a mid-sized city. And
Yeah.
so some of those community programs, so I tell people that I work with a few communities. The first one is going to be our youth, as I mentioned before. And we have
Mhm.
your typical after school programs. And they're
Right.
broken up into two different age groups, 6 to 12 and 13 to 18-year olds. And so
Mhm.
we service them that way. Another group of students that I work with are summer youth employment. So we work to put our youth into career opportunities so that they can learn the difference between just a job and like a job that, McDonald's, Burger King, that anybody would hire a student for. And we try to expose them to working in an office space where they can get a job as a receptionist, maybe, or a law office or a doctor's office, or just different things so they can really begin to see what's an actual career job and what does it take to get here, and more importantly, what does it take to stay here.
Right.
And then that's 16 to 21, so that's another big bucket.
Mhm.
Another bucket that we look at, just because of the trends that are happening with our youth across the country, is ages 13 to 30. A lot of students in that age group are bad actors, if you will. They just haven't figured out where they belong in the world. That's part of it. A lot of them have had some unspeakable traumas in their life. And between 13, right when they become a teenager, 12 and 13, all the way up to 30, we used to stop at 24, but we're really realizing now that it's not until many people turn 30 that they begin to get it, and
Yeah.
understand that, some of this is up to you. You have to make decisions on your own. So that's another age group we work with, is 13 to 30. And we consider that a disconnected youth. And then I
Mhm.
also work with reentry, the reentry population. Those are people who are coming to us. Maybe they actually been to prison and they're coming back to the community and need to figure out resources. Of course, they have tons of barriers and challenges that they have to overcome. And so we work with people who are on paper any kind of way. That's what they call it. If you're on paper, you might even just have probation, but it's hard for you to get a job, or it's hard for you to get ahead.
Mhm.
So we definitely work with those people. And then I'd say we work with everybody else. And so some of that might
Everybody
look
else.
like community schools. We have some programs that deal with conflict resolution, some that deal with mental health. We work with the Mayor's Youth Council. I mean, again, it's really whatever it looks like, to have resources in the community. So I tell people all the time, if you have a project or if there's something that you always wanted to do, come by my office and talk to us, because I'm pretty good at trying to figure out if it's going to improve the quality of life for our residents. We're going to try to figure out how to get it done.
Yeah, no, that's good. And that's a broad group, of folks that you're working with, and lots of programs that are happening there. So Dana, you got a lot that you're working with, girl. But that's amazing, though, that you guys have so much that you're able to do, across those number of populations of folks that you're doing things with. So that's really good. And so
I'm blessed. One of the things we're blessed with is that we have a budget. So I can say that we're
a
one of the
budget,
few, yeah, we're one of the few, actually we might even be the only one that are in the nation that are funded the way that we are. So I have $5 million a year that drops into my budget every year
mhm,
on January 1st. And that's what we use now. I would say it costs more than that. And the good news is that even though I get $5 million every year, we also get to keep any money that we don't spend. We call that carryover. And that doesn't happen anywhere in America. Everyone's always saying, how the heck do you guys do that? Because we're
yeah,
not
that
part of the
is.
general
How
fund.
do you do that?
And so it was voted on by our residents. They said we really are serious about our youth. We're really serious about our residents, and we have to commit to it. And so there was a special tax that again the voters voted on this a while
Mhm.
back to say, hey, we're that willing to make a difference in the city of Little Rock. Now, some of that came because there's probably many of your listeners who unfortunately saw Gangbanging in Little Rock. It was an HBO special years ago, in fact, about 25 years ago. And it was at that time that the Little Rock residents said, okay, enough. If we're serious about doing something, we can't keep talking about it. We've got to do something. So
Right.
it's really that special tax that we have, like I said, to the tune of $5 million a year that we're able to do these type of programs. And it has made a huge difference, I think, in the city of Little Rock, and we're proud of it.
That is huge. That is huge. That is definitely a difference maker, girl. So that's good. So Dana, we as you're working, and I always like to ask, as we're thinking about work and things that you're doing, how do I'm sure nobody's path is ever, linear. I heard you talk about, as you were sharing, being from Colorado and, deciding to go to UAPB and, having lived in Washington, D.C. for a while and then going back to Arkansas. Nobody's path is ever linear. So tell me a little bit about, we're talking about Women's History Month and those contributions. How did you get into the work of community development, and what drove your decisions, or how did you land on this path in the work that you're doing?
Thank you for that question. I don't get asked that a lot, and I think it's an interesting story. So, I was just blessed, first of all, to grow up with a great family. I thank God every day, literally, not just saying that, for
Yeah.
dropping me into the family that I had. I had two wonderful parents, blessed that both of them went to college. I know that doesn't happen in many families. Blessed to be the youngest of three. And I have two awesome brother and sister. They also were able to go to college. And so coming up, I was the youngest, and I had an older brother and an older sister, and they really did actually pour into me. I remember them teaching me how to read when I was just 3 years old. Now it helped that my mother was a teacher,
Yeah.
but they still actually sat me down like we were in class and said, "We're going to teach you how to read," and I learned to read at 3. And that's what started it. And I really think that's important for parents to really spend time. The earlier you can get to your child to teach them some of the things that you know they're going to need, then the better from a lifelong perspective. And so growing up, I was involved in things such as junior achievement, which really taught me how to be a leader. That
Yeah.
led me into in college, where, among other things, I ended up being student government president. And I'm actually talking about women's history. I
Yeah.
wasn't the first female, I was the second female SGA president, but I'm also the only one who was ever reelected twice. So I actually
Really?
served for 2 years. And in that role, it was really a big deal at the time. I actually convinced 4 other SGA presidents across the country to do the same thing. So there were 5 of us that served as SGA president for 2 years, because at that time we had the Black College Convention every year, and we were really movers and shakers, the 5 of us across the country. So we did it an extra year. I told my mother it's not going to cost you anything. I get a scholarship, so it didn't cost her any money. And then from there, I would say there's a lot of different things that, like you say, it wasn't linear. When I first went to college, I started out in business administration, because that's what everybody was doing. That's just kind of what you did. And
Mm-hmm.
it was the second week of school that I realized I am not going to pass accounting. So I've got to do something different. And I just myself down and said, well, what do I like to do? And I had been in the theater in ever since elementary school. And so I actually switched to speech and drama as a major. And then I went on to get my master's degree in speech communication. People would ask me all the time, what are you going to do with this speech degree? And I said, I don't know really, but I know that if I can communicate with people, I can figure the rest of it out. And that has definitely served me well. My background in speech has led me basically to a marketing and public relations background. And then whenever you're dealing with marketing and public relations, of course, that's exactly what you're doing, is dealing with the public, which led me straight into dealing with the community all the time, and meeting just countless different types of people. And I tell people, every job that I've had, although it's been across every type of industry that you can imagine, it's still doing the same thing, and that's talking to people, helping them to understand things that are available to them and how to get the most out of life from that aspect. So that's kind of a long way. Of course, there's a ton of different little stories that I could tell you about different things. I've been everything from a talk show host. I was a morning show producer at a radio station. I've been a magazine editor. I've taught classes on, actually, it's funny. I laugh because I taught classes on Facebook and Twitter literally right when they started. That's one of the
Really?
things I did for the National Education Association, was to teach the leaders across the country how to use that for organizing purposes. I have worked for the Minority Supplier Development Council in helping minority businesses. I've worked for the Arkansas Martin Luther King Commission and helping people understand the principles of nonviolence and what Martin Luther King was all about. I mean, I worked for State Farm Insurance as a insurance adjuster, both on houses and on cars and bodily injury, actually, and just a wide range of different things. But I still say all of it was dealing with the community and trying to improve their quality of life.
Yeah. You know what? If you can talk to people, it really will be able to, it'll open doors to literally any and everything. I mean, and just everything that you just said is social proof of just that. Literally. Like it does. No, so I love that. I love that. And being able to, yeah, being able to articulate, right? Like, and so speech, our speech classes was like one of my favorite classes. But yeah, having a degree in speech, like, yeah, Dana, it has served you well. It has served you well.
It has. I really will say that it has, being able to communicate. And one thing that I'd say, because I didn't realize this until even I went to college, is that when I first went and got my master's degree, I started out in journalism because I thought, or it was actually mass communication is what it was called, but the minor would
Yes.
have been in journalism. And I realized quickly again, I'm not a who, what, when, where, and how person. And so
Right.
when I switched to speech communication, which is actually in the fine arts, it's considered a fine art, the
Right.
speech communication. And even that in and of itself was amazing, because mass communication and journalism is in the business college. And
Yeah.
this was in fine arts. And I was like, isn't that interesting? It's considered a fine art. And it really is, because with
Mhm.
speech communication, you're able to put all of those words in. People would say, well, those are flowery words. It's not just who, what, when, where, and how. And I was like,
Right.
I know, because sometimes with what you're saying, you have to be able to paint a picture so that
Right.
people can really
Storytelling.
begin to understand what
Mhm.
you're trying to say and what you're trying to help them understand. And so that's the side. And that's why I think that I was so engaged in speech communication. That for me, I would say, is just a God given gift, that I'm able to utilize storytelling. I'm able to
Mhm.
utilize certain speech, because I was really good in semantics when I was younger, learning that there are certain words that mean something different. You can say walk all day long, but when you say saunter, when you say ran, when you say skipped,
Yeah.
it just brings the image alive and says something a little bit different than they got from point A to point B, which is what happens a lot of times in journalism. You need, well, how'd they get there? Well,
Yes.
that's what I like, is being able to use those adjectives and other types of words to really begin to paint a picture, so that people can begin to identify themselves as you're telling them how to utilize their resources. When you can paint a picture for them, it just makes everything so much clearer.
Yeah, no, it does because people can see it. Most people are visual learners, even if their learning style may be different. If you can visually communicate it to them, if they can visually see it and interpret what it is that you're saying, it makes all the difference. It comes alive for them. No, girl,
Manifestation, there we go. Manifestation all day long.
yeah, all day. Dana, I can tell already. We gonna have us some good conversations. Girl. Look, I hope we can. I'm gonna have to make sure that I'm watching the timer so that me and you don't go over our time today.
Definitely.
Oh my goodness. So Dana, so when you are working and thinking about Women's History Month, I keep coming back to that because I think it's important. Who were those amplifiers for you? Because so it's not a linear path, but I'm sure that there were those ones that were impactful for you, like you even talked about, having that older brother and sister that were helping teaching you how to read at 3 years old. And so who were those folks that after you went to college, who are those mentors for you? Who are those people that are active, in your path, that were contributing to who Dana Doucette is now? Like, do you still have mentors? Are there people that were part of that are either part of your circle still now, or were mentors or motivators for you, in crafting your career as you got started? Who are
For
those
sure.
those women that were part of that push for you?
For sure. Of course, I have to, shout out the regular ones. My mother was just awesome because she would not let us just sit around. She was not that mother. She was the
Good
one that
mama
said,
show.
yeah, you're not about to sleep in on Saturday. If you want to watch cartoons, get your chores done first.
Yeah.
And she was definitely a motivator, lots of different ways
Yes.
to make sure. So first her, I would say my sister. My sister, for example, is awesome. Her name is Stacia Robin. Just got to shout her out because
Yes.
she is the director of minority affairs for the state of Alabama. She's in the governor's cabinet. So she's just awesome. Again, you don't just walk in there one day and try to stake your claim. So she's been awesome, influencing my life. But aside from those, one of the first people that really caught my attention was Harriet Tubman, believe it or not, because I
Mm,
just thought it was so amazing that not only was she smart enough herself without a formal education and all that to escape to freedom, but the fact that she went back more than once to help others, because that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I recognized that at a young age, that being in the church, I realized it's not about me, it's about others. How are you helping others? What are you doing for others? How are you loving others? How are you showing up for others? So Harriet Tubman, just her life and her commitment to humanity has always been a beacon of hope and a blueprint of who I could be and how much of a difference one person can make. Did she save all the slaves? No, but she made such a huge impact that where it's reverberating long after her
real.
death. So that was definitely one. Another one was the silent warrior of Coretta Scott King. I told you I used to work for the Martin Luther King Commission, so I definitely knew all about him and a lot of the things that he did. But I often ask myself, how was he able to do all of that stuff? And that's because Coretta was right there offering him peace when he came home, taking care of the household because he was gone all the time, making sure that he had whatever it was that he needed, and being his rock in his hard times. Because great people don't get great by themselves. There is always somebody there who's making a difference. So, again, how do great people get great? It's because they have someone standing behind them, propping them up sometimes when they can't do it on their own. So, she has always been a remarkable and amazing person to me. And then I do have other mentors here locally. I was taught that really you just have to open your mouth because there's really a lot of people who would be willing to help you if you're just open it, if you just tell them that you could use their help. And I remember going to one lady and I told her name is Deborah Bell. She's over an organization called Better Community Development. And at that time I was in my 20s. And I was just amazed at some of the stuff that her family was able to do. She's actually part of a family here that has given back to the community for probably 60, 70 years. And I'm not joking. And she's just part of it. But in my 20s, I asked her, will you mentor me? Like, I just appreciate, what you know and what you're doing. And would you be willing to mentor me? And she is still one of my mentors that I get a chance to talk to her, ask her questions. I can't tell you how many times that I've gone to her when I've just been in distress and trying to figure my life out. And actually, she's helped me get a job a couple of times too. So, because sometimes it is who you know. So, those are the people that rise to the top, definitely. I've been
Yes.
blessed. There's others, trust me. Like I say, just throughout life, I have a long list of women who have really made a difference. But those are those that rise to the top of mind immediately.
Dana, I love that you were sharing all of those amazing people that really helped you and keep you going, got you started. And that's amazing. Like, I wouldn't even have thought of Harriet Tubman as someone that inspired you, but that's amazing. And I think that it takes that and all of the amazing people that you talked about, Coretta Scott King, and certainly our mothers and our sisters, and those there that are locally and are with you. I always think that, for each of us, we have those things that help us operate in our prime, like, as we are growing and we're getting better and we're doing more as we stay in our prime, or we get into our prime, but how do you, like the work that you do, it takes a lot, right? To do a lot.
Mhm.
And so, what are some of the things that you do? What are some of your practices, for, staying well and staying healthy? Because wellness is important, right? So what are some of the
Definitely.
practices and stuff that you do to just kind of keep yourself, up and going, because you're doing a big job and you get a lot done, but how do you do it? Because, we know that we, it requires, it
Yeah.
requires some things to do good work. So what do you do?
Well, a couple of them are going to sound cliche. The first one is pray. I mean,
Yeah.
really,
Hey,
there's just no substitution for it.
right.
And if you don't have it, try to learn it. And you can even go on the YouTube now or Google it or whatever, how to pray. But it really does make a big difference. I can't, hands down. This might sound cliche, but that's the truth. The
Yeah.
other one's going to sound cliche. It's meditate. It's something that's still really, I've heard it all this time and I kind of didn't believe it, but you have to meditate. You just do. Again, there's a lot of resources on the internet to learn how to do that. Another one is visualization, making a vision board and writing down some affirmations. You have to do them. You just have to. That, like I said, that's the cliche part. Now I get into some things that I've learned to do. One is that I'm a coach, a life coach through Mind Valley, and I'm certified to do that. So just going through it, when you learn a new skill, you have to study it. And as you study stuff, it really starts to get inside of you too. You can't give it to others unless it's inside of you first. So just learning about how to be a life coach has taught me to life coach myself, if you will.
Yeah, no,
And
that's a real thing. That's a
yeah,
real
and
thing.
it has really made a difference in my life to really think about some of the questions that I would ask other people, just turn that inward and really start kind of investigating myself. But I'd say one of the biggest impacts that I've had is really doing the Daniel fast. So along the way in my life's journey, I heard about the Daniel fast at my church actually because we used to do it every year when I was in DC. And as I did it, a lot of people I kept hearing were just focusing on the food of the of the Daniel fast. And I was like, there's got to be more to it than just stop eating, meat.
Mhm.
And so I
Yeah.
started really getting into it. And so the Daniel fast, and I call it the Daniel fast for spiritual breakthrough. I can't tell you how many breakthroughs and I would definitely say downright miracles that I have personally experienced in my life as a result of doing the Daniel fast. And so much so that I now actually teach it. I've created an 8-week course or an 8-session course, you should say, where I actually teach the Daniel fast for spiritual breakthrough. And that's because, hands down, if I had to point to any one thing that took me from just regular to good, and now I'm trying to go to great. But
Yeah.
just really that has really made a huge impact on my life. It's the Daniel Fast for Spiritual Breakthrough.
Oh, Dana, we definitely gonna have to bring you back in then so that you can break that down for the audience because
It's
we gonna
huge.
run out of time to get to it today, but we definitely gonna have to bring you back to have a session for that alone.
I'd
You
love
be willing
to.
to come back and do that?
Of course, because it makes such a big difference. It really does. I can't tell you enough. It really does.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely have to do that. Yeah, okay. So, audience, just know Dana Doucette will be back for the Daniel Fast for Spiritual Breakthrough,
Yes,
coming back to the Reimagine You Lab podcast.
yes,
Stay tuned. We're bringing that one back.
yes, ma'am.
Dana, you know what? I love everything that you talked about, life coach. I believe that everybody needs one. Like sometimes people believe that, hey, what is a life coach? What does that mean? We'll talk about that because I think it's important. Life coaches help you get to where is it that you want to go? What is your future state? How do you get there?
Hmm.
Having that
Yes.
accountability, that roadmap,
Hmm.
what does that look like? You need that, you
You
know,
do.
a vision board, hey, visualization, but you've got to, like it can't just sit on the board.
Right.
There's goals that you have, but they can't just sit on the board. You got to have a plate. You've got to have a roadmap to get there and some accountability to help you take the action steps to make it happen, right?
Yep.
So that it comes to life. Meditation. You've got to quiet this brain down.
You do. And your environment.
Yeah. You've got to get to a place where you can actually do that. And it takes practice. You
It
do
does.
have to practice.
It does.
Girl, and who's living without prayer these days? Come on now. You got to pray.
Got to. And I'll say this real quick. Someone said recently, prayer is when you talk to God. It's when you talk to God and let him know what's on your heart, what's in your mind, what's in your spirit.
Mhm.
Meditation is when God talks to you.
There you go. Yes.
That was
Yes.
powerful. Yeah.
That is huge. Yeah. That is. That is. No, I love it. Oh, Dana. This has been so good. So, before we close out, I would like to give you just an opportunity. What one thing, as we are celebrating our Women's History Month, and you've dropped so many jewels and golden nuggets. I feel like Charlie,
Oh, and
I
Willy
can't think.
Wonka.
Yeah, from
Willy
Willy Wonka.
Wonka.
I was trying to think of Charlie's last name. I can't think of his name. I was going to call him Charlie Wonka, but Willy Wonka had the chocolate factory. But I feel like Charlie with the golden ticket in my chocolate bar right now because I feel like I feel like we've gotten a golden ticket today with so many things that you have shared. But what would you like? What would you tell people, women, and even the men that are listening, because I know that there are guys that tune into the show, and there's a lot of value in celebrating, not only celebrating the women that are in your lives, but also in just taking and learning from the women that are in your lives. But what would you say? What do you want the audience to leave with today that they can take back to the women that they know, or what would you like to leave them with before we close out for today?
Well, you said one thing, and I'm going to say three, but they are
Go ahead.
encompassed in one thing.
Okay.
And I'll use the visual of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, or
Okay.
Dorothy from The Wiz. Let's go that route. But
Yes.
what it is that, so I first want to say that one person can make a difference. So Dorothy was by herself at first, but she was one person that, if you look at the central person of the whole story, it was Dorothy. But look at the difference that she made for so many people through that story. So one person really can make a difference. So that's first. The second part of that is Dorothy didn't travel that road by herself, though. Along the way, she picked up people who needed help, but they ended up helping her. And so that's what we need to do throughout life, is that as Dorothy, as we go through life, it doesn't hurt to help a few other people along the way. And you'll find out a lot of times that you're the one that actually gets the help. along the way, and everybody's helping each other. And then the third thing is that what Dorothy learned in the end is that everything that you need is within. So you don't need anything else. You actually already have it. You just have to tap into it. And it starts with believing in yourself. So again, just by using one image of Dorothy from the Wiz, you can get all three of those things that are very important to enjoying your quality of life.
Absolutely. And very well said, my friend. Very well said. Ah, this has been so good. So good. Well, Dana Doucette, I think that we have covered everything that we was planning to cover and then some for today. And then we've got a little bit of spillover that we gonna bring back and come again the next time. But Dana, I want to make sure that we give everyone access to getting in contact with you. So give me the website for you. I want to make sure that we have that captured.
I will have to send it to you and then you'll have to put it in there, but it's actually getsteadfast.wordpress.com. So again, it's get steadfast, GET, and then the word steadfast, because that's the name of the actual fast, is getsteadfast.wordpress.com. That'll
Right.
take you at least to the Daniel fast. That's one way to get in contact with me. The
Okay.
other thing is to get in contact with me at doucettecapital@gmail.com. And that's DOSSETTCAPITAL@gmail.com. Those are the two best ways to get in contact with me. And the other way is just contact the city of Little Rock. So if you just go to littlerock.gov and look for community programs, you'll also find our office and a lot of the information and resources that we have. And I'm always open to talking to other cities or other people, especially nonprofits, to just learn how do you get ahead, how do you get started in some of the things that we do, and or maybe you might want them in your city, or I mean, I'm always an open book to trying to help anyone. I'm able to speak to anyone or serve on panels. I mean, I'm really just open because, like Dorothy, I'm trying to help as many people as I can because I do believe that that's my God given work to do in this world, and also a God given talent. So I got to use it.
Dana, you are absolutely a resource. That is for sure. So you guys that are tuning in, make sure that you reach out to Dana, City of Little Rock, Arkansas. Make sure that you reach out for those of you who you're going to come back to the show to talk about the fast. So we're going to make sure that we give you information about the fast, and then you'll be able to learn about it in our 8-week sessions that she's going to be doing. She'll share it with us here, and then we're going to definitely invite you guys to participate. And then for those of you who are interested in learning more and get resources, have Dana on your speakers panel or to come into your organization to be a resource to you to learn more. Definitely make sure that you reach out, and all of our credentials will be below. All right. Thank you, Dana, for coming in and being with us, and we'll see you
Thank
back
you.
here soon.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who took the time to tune in and listen to everything. Hopefully, you've been blessed to go on and make your own legacy. That's what Women's Month is all about. Women's History.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in this week. It is always my pleasure to bring you the best and the brightest. And today, the light has been shining with Mrs. Doucette. I'm so glad to have had her here. Make sure that you tune in every Friday because we're going to drop something new, something fresh, something amazing. So make sure that you subscribe, hit the like button, share this with friends, family, colleagues, all those who could use some change in their lives. And also make sure that you tune in next week. We will be closing out Women's History Month and our beautiful series with amazing women who are doing amazing work all across the country in their cities, their communities. And I hope that you have enjoyed what we have put together. And then you will be back joining us for the closeout, where we're going to bring all of those amazing women who have been a part of this series. We're coming back. We will see you on next week. Blessings to everybody. Bye.